Well, hi, everybody. Here's Professor Smith welcoming you to the American Legislatures class. In this particular class, I am only planning on making one video, and it's the one you're seeing right now. Now, for some of my other classes, I introduce each module with a video, but in this one, I think I can cover what I would like to tell you that I can't communicate through Canvas, through the modules, and so forth, in a single video. Just an introduction and an overview of the class, my expectations, what we're going to be reading. I've got a tip for you to save some money on books coming up, so definitely watch the whole video so you don't miss that. Save a lot of money, actually. And I just want to introduce you to me, although some of you have taken classes from me before, some of you have not. Introduce you to the course. We'll take a look at the syllabus together and the books we'll be reading, and I'll also talk about my approach to online teaching. And so let's get down to business. This is an asynchronous online class, which means that there are no set meeting times. The only expectation is that you do the work and that you have that work posted on time. And there are due dates for all the assignments. And we do have class discussions. Now, those aren't real time, but we utilize the class discussion board. And those need to be done during the time period set aside for that particular module, or you will not receive credit. I mean, let's just think about it. It is a class discussion, which means interaction with your classmates. If you put comments up on a class discussion afterwards, then your classmates aren't going to see it and aren't going to respond to it. That's not a class discussion. You wouldn't walk into an empty room several hours after class ended and talk to yourself and then expect to get credit for it. And so same thing with class discussion. I am rather strict about that. Need to be participating during the time period set for that unit. But everything else is due by the due date, which is typically a Sunday night, because in my experience teaching online, which I've been doing for more than 10 years now, Sunday night typically works best, particularly for the distance learning students. There's no harm, no foul in turning in assignments early. You're always welcome to do that. Just don't be late and be mindful about the class discussion. We can make arrangements for you to submit a little bit of work late. Don't let it snowball and turn it all in during finals week. But if you're just a bit late, I can work with you as long as you're caught up on the class discussion. That part I'm very strict about. More willing to cut you some slack on the other, but I don't want you to fall behind because you'll enjoy the class more, learn more, and get a better grade if you stay caught up. So what's this class all about? Well, here it is in Canvas right here. You see that picture of Congress with Canvas added a red tint to it. It's called American Legislatures, and also merged with a graduate section for graduate students. But those specific requirements are on the syllabus, so graduate students can read those over on your own, and I don't need to incorporate that into the video. I already have the syllabus open over here. And so we start out with the contact information and a DocX copy of the syllabus. It's also cut and pasted. Office hours, if you're on campus, I'm happy to meet with you during my office hours in either of my two offices. Sometimes meetings and things come up. So the ideal is that you make an appointment ahead of time. We can even make an appointment outside those times if need be, as long as I don't have a conflict. And you can also just walk in, just be mindful that I have the two offices. So be mindful of which office I plan to be in when. But those are my office hours there. The thing I really want to stress, though, since we have distance learners in this class, is that office hours are for you too. Just send me an email. Let's make a Zoom appointment. Even if you work a 9-to-5 job and you need to make a Zoom appointment, I even have some evenings when I could make an appointment. I will work with you. Office hours are for you too. Just because you're a distance learner doesn't mean you're excluded from meeting with me during office hours. I'm here. So let's make a face-to-face or Zoom appointment when you need to talk. I have learning outcomes, which are, I think, pretty standard for a class like this. We're going to talk about the election part of being a member of Congress, running for election, running for re-election, raising money, all that stuff. But we're also going to talk about the public policy making. We'll talk about the parties, the role of parties in policy making. We'll talk about committees, which traditionally serve as what we call gatekeepers. One of my favorite things is the home style, the idea pioneered by political scientist Richard Fenno back in the 1970s. We need to get out of Washington and start studying members of Congress in their home districts and see how they interact with constituents. That's actually how we start the semester. And it's also the basis of your term paper. And I will go over that here in a bit. Relations with the other branches of government, the courts, the president, the executive, the bureaucracy. And then we also, this class is called American Legislatures, not Congress. We're going to talk about state legislatures. We're going to do that through the lens of what are called term limits. Back in the 1990s, there was a wave of term limits passed on state legislatures. Now, the real goal of these activists was to term limit Congress. They wanted for members of Congress to leave office after a few terms. The idea being that more regular citizens and fewer professional politicians would be serving in Congress if we put term limits on how long they could serve. It didn't work with Congress. The Supreme Court ruled that would take a constitutional amendment. But it did work with many state legislatures, although not Kansas, but neighboring states like Colorado and Missouri have them. So does California. So do a number of other states. And so we can study term limits and even predict what term limits on Congress might be like by studying those states. And the impact has been surprising and disappointing. For one thing, in states with term limits, we find more, not fewer, professional politicians serving in the legislature, not people like Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, if you know of that classic old movie. It's actually more professional politicians. But looking at state legislatures by comparing the ones with term limits and ones like Kansas without them is a lens through which we can gain insight into how the state legislatures operate and compare and contrast them not only with each other, but with Congress also. Teaching method. This class is asynchronous. This is the only video I plan to make this semester. I do plan to hyperlink at least one video made by another teacher, a really useful one going over how a bill becomes a law process in Congress. But there aren't a whole lot of videos, and you don't have to zoom in. But don't forget about my Zoom office hours, though. But other than that, if you don't choose to take advantage of those or outside the times that you do, there's no time to zoom in. Complete the work. Don't forget to be on time with that class discussion and upload the assignments to the appropriate place on assignments. And of course, participate in discussion under class discussions on Canvas. And I'll be sure to group all that together for you in modules. Once again, graduate students are welcome in this class. You have your own section number, PO 714, and there are some additional requirements for you. If you are a graduate student in PO 714, read over these requirements on your own time. Again, it's Canvas, and then click on the name of the class, which is PO 446 for everybody, even the graduate students, because the Canvas shells have been merged together. And then click on syllabus, and there is everything right there. There's your grading scale, standard language about academic dishonesty policy. I'm thrilled to tell you I rarely need to use this in online classes. I think sometimes when I do have to use this, and again, it's rare, but when it does come up, I think sometimes the students didn't even realize there was an issue, and it's usually plagiarism. Just remember, you can't cut and paste. That's usually where people get hung up. If they do get hung up, no cutting and pasting. We're looking for your own arguments in your own words. And as long as you're doing that, you're good to go. Accommodations. The SAS office is available for distance learners. It's not just for on-campus students. And also, I will keep this Canvas shell accessible too. So if you have any concerns about accessibility, please let me know and I will fix it, because this is an accessible class. All of our classes at Emporia State are accessible classes. So let me know if there's any problem with accessing any of the materials, including accommodations being made for any kind of disability or what have you, and we'll get that done. And we also have the SAS office here that you can contact as well. All the current contact information is here on the syllabus. They have moved to the library. I will be sure to update that on the syllabus. We take diversity, equity, and inclusion very seriously here. We welcome differing opinions. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are not about excluding opinions, not at all. I hope we sometimes disagree with each other in a friendly way. In fact, we have a whole unit on that in this class, believe it or not. More on that soon. But the bottom line is, while we are welcome to all different political perspectives, we do need to be respectful, and we do honor diversity, equity, and inclusion in this class. And here is ESU's statement on that. We'll follow that. I've never had to use this policy, but it's on the syllabus just in case the faculty-initiated student withdrawal. Never had to use it. It's there if we need it. I doubt we will. Take a look at this basic needs statement. A lot of ESU students may be able to take advantage of some of these opportunities. The Student Wellness Center, financial aid, and Corky's Cupboard for online students or those who can get to Emporia. We have a lot of students who benefit from these services. Maybe you're one. So please take a look at this statement and then feel free to click on these links and explore more of those options. We also work with the community here in Emporia to help meet the needs for the hunger or the food insecure, pardon me. If you want to learn a little bit about me, like my PhD from the University of Missouri, love to tease students about that because although we all love ESU, sometimes on that NCAA Division I, every now and then I get a student that roots for KU, so got to tease you about that a little bit. But I've put forward a few books, edited a few also, write a newspaper column and so forth. If you're interested in knowing a little bit more about me, you can read that, and if you're not, you can skip it. Let's move on. Here's something that's need to know, the books for this class. There are 3 plus a 4th if you're a graduate student, 3 for undergrads and 4 for graduate students. We're going to start out right here with Richard Fenno's The Challenge of Congressional Representation. His last book, I believe. Fenno died just a few years ago, and he was a legend. He would go to the home districts of members of Congress and study them as they interacted with their constituents. He called it home style, and he studied it from the 1970s through the end of his career. He was a legend. There will never be another one like him, although there is still good qualitative research going on in political science and related fields. But we've got to read some Fenno, and we will read about his experiences shadowing members of Congress, or as he called it, soaking and poking. This is available online. It's available in used copies too, and it's even available as an ebook if you would like. There are not multiple editions. You don't have to worry about editions. Speaking of editions, we do have one textbook in this class. Oh, by the way, let's see. Where's Fenno? Oh, it's hiding here, pardon me. It's one problem with these Zoom classes. Sometimes the pull-down menu covers up what I want to show you. Here's Fenno, Challenge of Congressional Representation. At least one of the members of Congress he did study is still in office. Fenno's work is starting to get a little dated, but it's still classic. And even if the people we're studying are out of office, reading about Congress from his perspective and also about research methods, his soaking and poking, make it a great read. So there's that. Moving on. Here's your next book. It's called Congress and Its Members. It's a textbook. Now, I don't assign a lot of textbooks in my classes. This is a rare exception because, well, it's an excellent book written by 3 political scientists who really know their stuff. It's well written, it's compelling, and it fits with our curriculum. But there is a problem with textbooks, as you know, cost. So I've got a solution for you. I do not require you to purchase the current edition of this book. If you buy an older edition, yeah, the examples will be a little dated, but you'll save a fortune. And so for that book, what I'm showing you is that I have deliberately brought up a hit for this book on a used book website. And it's not just that one. You can find used copies elsewhere. And if you're interested in saving yourself some money, why don't you just go ahead and get the edition that I use? I use the 13th edition of this book. Came out back in 2011. Yeah, some of the examples are out of date, but look at the price. This particular used book vendor is selling used copies for $5.34. And I even checked on the shipping, and look at that, free shipping. And it gets better. I'll sweeten the deal for you even a little bit more, because this is not the first book we read this semester. Fenno is. That means you have a couple weeks to get this book. So as soon as you finish this video, you can go to this used book website, you can go to others, you know the ones. Get yourself a copy of the 13th edition. You'll be using exactly the same edition that I use, $5.34 with free shipping. And not only that, but the free shipping it arrives within 8 days. Well, we will still be reading the Fenno book within 8 days. So you'll have this book in plenty of time for the unit we do that comes out of this book. So that's what I recommend to you for that book. It's a pretty standard textbook, but it's well written, and it's got all the fundamentals we need to cover with Congress. And then I've also got a video that I'll use. And as you know, if you've taken an online class from me before, I'll have quizzes and some essay assignments that I'll be posting along with the class discussion. And then that term paper, which is based on Fenno. More on that in a bit. And then for undergraduates, we have one more book. It is from the University of Michigan, Term Limits in State Legislatures by Carrie, Nemi, and Powell. And as I mentioned, back in the 1990s, voters decided to put term limits on Congress. And while they were at it, they said, well, let's term limit the state legislature too. The Supreme Court, the US Supreme Court, then ruled that term limits on Congress would require a constitutional amendment. So they struck those down, but they let the ones on state legislatures stand. So we now have laboratories where we can study the impact not only of term limits, but we can compare states with term limits with states that don't have term limits and learn more about state legislatures themselves and how they work. So we can not only compare the state legislatures with Congress, we can also compare them with each other, because there's a lot of variation from state to state in how our state legislatures operate. And so those are our 3 books. And then, of course, we have additional information. The final exam schedule doesn't apply to this class, but if you need it, another language, different university policies, you're welcome to check that out by clicking the links. I've got a schedule, and this is online, but I've scheduled this like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday class. And let me illustrate this at this point by going over to the modules. I've created the first module. The others are coming. Here's some need to know material for you. Our student government has made a neat tips for success poster. I've linked here. We're working on getting it in an accessible format. Here's another way to view the syllabus. And here's a video. I really want you to check this video out. Write in your books. So many students these days come into class and they get these professors that just assume that that you've been trained to learn by writing in your books, either with a highlighter or a pencil, just like we assume that you have been trained to take notes during class lectures. For my students in my other class this semester, I have a video in which I go over taking notes during class lectures. And for you, I've got my Write in Your Books video that I made a few semesters back. It's critical because this is book-based learning in this class. There are only a few videos. It's basically learning from the books. Learning to write in the books is critical. And I even mention ebooks, since Fenno is available both as a hard copy and an ebook. And I go over taking notes in ebooks as well as hard copies of books. Please take the time to watch this video. It's pretty short. I think it's about 20 minutes long. And with examples, I go over this. So I want you to watch this before you dive into the material. And then here's what the units look like. There's a standard due date for all the assignments in a unit. September 11th is the first due date. That means not only is that when all these are due, but it's also when you'll want to get your inexpensive used copy of that Davidson et al. Textbook, because the next book, the next unit will require that book. But we're going to start with Fenno, so you'll need that right away. hard copy or ebook, either way, write in your books, watch this video and I'll show you how. And then we work our way through with these quizzes. Some of the quizzes have an essay. Some are multiple choice only. So they're either multiple choice only or they're a mix. And then we wrap it all up after we read chapter 7, which is a summary chapter. Instead of a quiz on that one, I'll have you write a book review. And I've posted an example of a book review I wrote recently, as well as instructions for that. I know students like instructions. They don't like to just be thrown in the deep end of the pool. So I've got instructions for you on that and some details on the assignment and then an example. And these are all quizzes. Do the reading, then take the quiz. You may not take the quiz multiple times. However, you may take as long as you like. So the good news is no timed quiz. If you want to take several hours to do these, you may. Bad news is can't take it over and over. It's a one-shot deal. If something goes wrong with the technology, contact me and I'll work out a solution with you though. So don't panic, but generally speaking, it's one shot, but unlimited time. And so that's what to expect here. If you are able, I strongly recommend doing your work this semester on an actual computer. And I know for most students these days, that means a laptop. If you're really old school and you have a desktop, that's fine too. I wouldn't try to complete these quizzes on your phone. Now, if you get the ebook for Feno and you read ebooks on your phone, that's fine. But I wouldn't try to complete the quizzes on your phone. It may be possible, but the problem is with the essay, typing on that keypad on a smartphone, it's awful small and autocorrect could mess up your sentences, and just much better to do these at your computer. So that's what I recommend. It is possible to do it on a phone. It's just not recommended. So there's that. And only the first unit is available, but the other modules are coming. Again, the discussion, I've already launched the discussion. And you just click on that and you post. And I like one major post where you start a new line of discussion and 2 follow-ups in the discussion. Here, we'll click on it and it says that right here. And with the follow-ups, don't forget, it's nice to be encouraging, but don't just say good job or I agree. If you agree with your classmates or if you think they did a good job, explain why. And if you disagree, that's okay. In fact, we've got that Unify America unit in this class where we're going to have a whole unit on civil disagreement. So keep it civil. It is okay to disagree with me or with your classmates also. The key is to be civil about it, to be considerate and polite. But that's what a module looks like. And there are more modules coming. But in the meantime, if you just click on syllabus, pardon me, you can see the whole class all at a glance. And you can look ahead and see that what's coming is the Davidson, Olezek, Lee, and Schickler textbook, which again, I recommend the 13th edition for less than $5 with free shipping instead of the expensive current one. And we'll be going over that. The Unify America assignment is on here. Again, quizzes, all of them have multiple choice questions. Some also have essays, some don't. No work due over break. Almost all work is due on a Sunday evening. And then there's no book review. I'm not going to have you write a book review of a textbook. That would just be silly. So we just finish that one up with a quiz. Then we'll go into term limits in the state legislatures. So we're talking about state legislatures and not just Congress. Now, I told you about that book earlier. That's the University of Michigan one. Same format in that module. And for that one, we will once again have a book review at the end instead of a quiz for the last chapter. And then there's a due date for that graduate students only assignment. Graduate students, you're also expected to volunteer to write the prompt and lead a class discussion or 2 over the course of this semester. And so be in touch with me about that and read that over on the syllabus. You need to be a class discussion leader as a graduate student this semester. So get in touch with me about that, you graduate students. Everybody does the term paper. I want you to pull a Feno. I want you to get out there and shadow an elected official or a candidate. It does not have to be a member of Congress. You may do a state legislator like Emporia's Kansas State Representatives Mark Schreiber or Eric Smith, or you could shadow State Senator Jeff Longby. You could shadow the mayor of Emporia or of the town where you live, or a member of the city commission. School board is fine. Feel free to shadow a member of your local school board. Doesn't have to be Congress, doesn't have to be a federal office. It could be a city commissioner, school board member. You've got a lot of options, but you will need to reach out and make contact and find someone that agrees. And then you'll need to shadow them. And keep in mind that we're doing a phenno here, soaking and poking. And so it's not just doing an interview with them. You need to follow them around, go to meetings with them, meet their constituents with them, watch how they perform at meetings. You'll get it after you read the Fenno book, because you'll see lots of examples of how he does it. But it doesn't have to be a member of Congress or any federal official, but some elected official or a candidate running for office is okay. I want you to get out there and do some soaking and poking. Write that up, and that is your term paper, and the due date for that is already on the syllabus here. And that's our semester, folks. I really enjoy teaching this class. I really enjoy the interactions with you students, the topics, the material. Looking forward to it. Remember, office hours are for you too. Most students start with email, and then after that, we can make an in-person or Zoom appointment. I'm here to help you with this material, but get the books. Don't forget to get an older edition. I recommend the 13th of the textbook, so you're not paying a whole bunch of money. The other two books are a little more expensive than that, but they're not bad. They're nothing like textbooks, and you will need them. And just reach out to me if you have any questions. I'm looking forward to this semester. I'll see you online.